Welcome everybody to Planning Committee meeting at Lichfield District Council on the 30th of September 2024. This is a publicly broadcasted meeting that is streamed live via our website and available on YouTube. I would therefore ask you to conduct yourselves in an appropriate manner. I welcome those present in the public seating area and ask you to be respectful to the committee members, its officers, as well as those speaking. I ask that you remain seated and quiet during these proceedings. My name is Councillor Harvey Coggins, Chair of Lichfield's Planning Committee. In a moment, I will be asking everybody participating in this meeting to introduce themselves. Before doing so, can I remind everyone in the meeting to ensure that your mobile phone and electronic devices are either switched off or muted. For those who have registered to speak, please ensure that your content is relevant and material to the debate in hand and that you are mindful of the allotted speaking time. If you go over this time, you will be asked to stop immediately. When speaking, please speak directly into the microphone so that those following from home, as well as those in the room, can see and hear you clearly. When you are not speaking, please ensure that your microphone is switched off. Planning Committee is a non-political, quasi-judicial committee bound by the National Planning Policy Framework, Lichfield's Local Plan and Supplementary Planning Guidance. Our decisions are informed by planning considerations tied to these policies, but it is not a pure science. We must weigh up benefit and harm when coming to a view. The arrangements for conducting this meeting will be as follows. Officers will introduce each application. Any members of the public or applicants' agents who have registered to speak will then be invited by me to address the committee in turn. Members are reminded to keep their questions to the point and on matters of clarification of planning issues only. Technical questions or clarification of details of the application will generally be best directed to the officers. Committee members will then discuss and decide on the officers' recommendations on each application. May I also be clear that we cannot receive questions or comments from anyone in the public seating area. Please be assured that the committee will aim to thoroughly question and consider all matters before it in coming to a decision. When we come to vote on each application, I will initially ask all members to confirm if they are minded to approve the recommendations in the report by raising their hand. I will then ask those voting against or abstaining to confirm the specific planning reasons you are doing so. In the event of a vote being carried against the officer's recommendation, I will ask officers to comment on the validity of the planning reasons and, if recommended by officers, will ask each member to vote again on whether to defer that item for a further report on those reasons. If for any reasons a member is not present for the whole of an item, they will be asked not to vote on that application. I will now ask all members and then officers participating to introduce themselves. So if we start with Vice Chair Hugh.
Hugh Ash. Derek Cross.
Serena Mears.
Joe Powell.
David Salter.
Councillor Jamie Checkland.
Di Evans.
Andrew Rushton.
Keith Vernon.
Jan Anketel.
Okay, thank you. And if we now move to the officers, if we start at that end, thank you.
Max Howarth, solicitor from Anthony Collins.
Ian Long, Principal Planning Consultant for LWMTS.
Tom Ansell, Senior Planning Officer.
And Kerry Challoner, Development Management Manager.
Okay, thank you for that, everybody. So we'll move on with the agenda now. We'll start with number 1, apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Apologies have been received from Councillors S. Taylor and Marshall.
Okay, thank you. Number 2.
Councillor Galvin. Please, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Next is declarations of interest. Has anybody got anything they need to declare? Okay, we'll start with Councillor Rushton.
For case number 24/00490/FUL, I'm a ward councillor in this ward.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, that's declarations of interest done. Number 3, minutes of the previous meeting. Can I take it that the minutes are approved as a true record? Has anybody got anything to? Okay, councillor, no? Oh, approved? Oh, okay, thank you. I thought everybody had something to say about them. I was like, blimey. No, okay, that's brilliant. Okay, the minutes. Okay, we'll take the minutes then as approved as a true record, and we can move on to the planning applications for tonight. So we've got 2 things that we're looking at. The first one is 24/00762/OUTM, former site of Bridge Cross Garage. Okay, so I'll move on to the officer now that's presenting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this application concerns the former Bridge Cross Garage site on Cannock Road, Burntwood. This application is the 3rd time the site has appeared before Planning Committee, and I thought I'd start by doing a very brief verbal history just to refresh people's memories. The first application, which was reference 21/00016/FULM, was refused by committee in July 2022. The decision was appealed and the inspector subsequently dismissed the appeal, citing concerns relating to design, appearance and massing of the north elevation of the building and the uncertainty surrounding the proposed mitigation and the impact of the development on the Burntwood primary care network. The second application, which was 23/01439/FULM, that was received just before Christmas 2023. This application proposed some significant design changes to the northern elevation of the building to try and overcome the inspector's first reason for dismissing the appeal. And an in-house consultation space was also proposed to overcome the inspector's concerns surrounding the development's impact on the Burntwood primary care network. This 2023 application was also refused by Planning Committee in May 2024. Committee provided 3 reasons, citing the impact of development on the primary care network, the principle of development, and the scale of massing as reasons for refusal. This decision has been appealed. The appeal is live. The Section 106 agreement negotiations are presently ongoing. The current application, reference 24/00762/OUT-M, has been submitted with further amendments to the design to address committee's concerns from the May 2024 committee. The applicants offer continued support for the in-house visiting The applicants offer continued support for the in-house visiting clinical space and advise that support for the principle of development has been established by the inspector's conclusions during the appeal for the very first application. So as before, the current application concerns a parcel of land to the south of Cannock Road within the built-up area of Burntwood. It is within the Burntwood town centre as designated by the neighbourhood plan. It has been vacant for some time. The site has historically contained overgrown grass and shrub, but this is being cleared back quite recently. It is within the built limits of Burntwood, within the Burntwood town centre, and is also an allocated site, Site A within the Burntwood neighbourhood plan, within the Cannock Chase Special Area of Conservation. The site lies to the south of Cannock Road. The access will be taken from Cannock Road and will run along the eastern edge of the site, permitting access into the care homes car park. So that side of the site there. While also maintaining access to the rest of the allocated site to the south. To the west is the Emmanuel New Life Church. And to the eastern boundary is a coffee shop fronting onto Cannock Road. And there is a larger mixed-use building attached to this. Chase View Care Home lies nearly directly opposite. To the south is the remainder of the site allocated within the Burntwood neighbourhood plan. Here are some photographs of the site taken earlier this year with the vantage points up. So looking into the site from Cannock Road. And then photograph 4 looks out to Cannock Road from within the site and then turns slowly. And then in photograph 6, you can see the church. And then again, a couple more photographs showing other angles. So the care home will be accessed from the northeastern edge of the site, as I've said, via a road which will have an accompanying footpath. The care home provides parking which exceeds the provision within the council's SPD on sustainable design. And at the front of the site will be a community cafe / shared space which will be open to the public. So what I've put on screen now, this drawing shows the elevations of the very first iteration of the development that was refused by committee and dismissed at appeal. It was refused due to the scale massing and in particular the architectural blandness of the northern elevation. There were no colorized elevations that I could see for this earlier proposal. Underneath it is a colorized elevational drawing of the scheme before committee today. And the main differences between the two will be the additional forward projecting gables in contrasting material, which will be cladding, a change in the ridge line height just over halfway along the ridge to break up the apparent scale and massing of the building. You'll see a more varied material palette overall with render on the community cafe building and additional architectural detailing, sort of headers and sills, which you can just about make out there above the windows and underneath the windows, and also banding along the building. This plan simply shows all 4 elevations non-colorized with the same label as before, showing you've got the 3-story amended north-facing elevation, the community cafe, and the reduction in the ridge line. This drawing shows a computer-generated image of the northern elevation. It is very helpful in providing detail and depth to the 2-dimensional black and white drawings. It shows a variety of materials particularly well, with suitable planning conditions achieving the variety indicated in the drawing is considered to be very much achievable. After some reflection on this point, I'm proposing a strict requirement for brickwork for the building, which will involve adding a condition after condition 8, which I'll touch upon in a minute. This image is a CGI of the south and east facing elevations, so it's essentially within the courtyard that will contain the care home's car park. It is helpful in providing a more realistic and easy interpreted impression of what the finished product could look like. 72 bedrooms will be provided over 3 stories on the second floor. A 16-meter squared visiting clinical surgery room has been provided by the applicant to mitigate the increased pressure the development will place on the Burntwood primary care network. So councillors are requested to consider the principle of development, noting the building is proposed on an allocated mixed-use site and strongly bearing in mind the inspector's conclusions in the dismissed appeal as set out in the committee report. Councillors are also requested to consider the design and visual impact of the development, acknowledging that further changes have been made following the refusal of the previous application in May. Councillors should also consider residential amenity, access and highway safety, impacts on trees, ecology, drainage and flood risk. Further consideration will be the mitigation which continues to be proposed to offset the development's impact on the primary care network, the 16 square metre internal visiting clinical surgery space. There's a detailed written update containing more information on this matter in the committee supplementary document, as the council received comments from the Integrated Care Board after publication of the committee report, and subsequently a direct response to these comments from the agent on behalf of the applicant. Ultimately, the recommendation before councillors today remains the same. As a verbal update, as I just touched on, concerning the brickwork, following a review of Condition 8's wording, officers proposed to tweak the wording of Condition 8 so that it requires brickwork detailing for the window surrounds and vertical horizontal banding. And then a separate condition, Condition 9, would be requiring, instead of just a brickwork, like photographs of brick or a brick band, a brick sample panel, a 1 meter square brick sample panel to be built instead. So it will be worded, the external walls of the care home hereby approved, except for where alternative details are provided to comply with Condition 8 only, shall be constructed in brickwork of a type, colour, texture, face, bond and pointing, which is in accordance with the sample panel, which is a minimum 1 meter square in size. And that should be constructed on site to be inspected and approved in writing by the LPA before the commencement of the brickwork. And it will be constructed in a position where it can be protected, accessible for viewing in good daylight for a distance of 3 meters and kept on site for the duration. This is quite a standard condition to use where the council wants an extra layer of control. It ensures the chosen brickwork is suitably coloured and textured, such that it reflects the prevailing red and orange hued brickwork prevalent in older buildings within Burntwood and within the wider district, as well as the brickwork used on the large care home opposite the site. So after all careful consideration of all relevant matters, officers conclude that the application should be supported for the reasons set out in the accompanying reports, in accordance with the Section 106 agreement and conditions as per the heads of terms and detailed set out on pages 38 to 43 of the committee report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that report. So now we'll move on to speakers for this. If I could ask Samantha Crawley up to the microphone. Thank you. Okay, so you'll have 5 minutes to speak. We'll start the timer when you start speaking, and you'll get a reminder 30 seconds before the end.
Cool.
And
Thank you.
then you can't go over that time, so we'll stop you speaking if you hit that time. Okay,
Fine.
thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Samantha. I'm the CEO of Bracebridge Care Group. So I run care homes. Planning is not my expertise. Care homes is. So I just want to put that out there. I wrote something because I felt I wanted to explain who we are a little bit more. So care homes are changing, and we have honed how care homes deliver truly exceptional care to communities. COVID taught us so much about the design and build of care homes. We worked through many days where we held the hands of people passing with no family and friends around because of the high level of transmission across care home buildings. Large number of people sharing hallways, dining areas, living spaces, and team members resulted in high transmission levels. We have got to learn from this. And that is why we as a team have designed our homes to mitigate the risk of transmission, as well as taking the principles from Professor Tom Kitwood and more recently Dr. David Sheard, who was Professor of Emotional Intelligence of York University. Building design enables well-being. Building design for the future encompasses pandemic-proof care homes. These are pandemic-proof. And that is coming from someone who spent her days for 6 months throughout COVID in care homes where people were dying every day, enhanced by the design of care homes of the past. Sorry, it's very sad. Now, these principles are based on the premise that if we get dementia care right, we get all care right. Our household model is highly sought after, as we can ensure there are small cohorts of people living in their own household, engaged life in sea, supported by a team that works only in that household, meaning real relationships and understanding grows, enabling the best of care for everyone. We also know now that people living with dementia, if cohorted with people at approximately the same stages of their dementia, do much better in their well-being. Older people who live alongside people living with dementia can often feel uncomfortable, displaced, and anxious. This often resulting in less than favourable interactions, such as dismissive, often angry exchanges with the people living with dementia. Our design helps reduce this stress, and that means that people's health remains for longer, as ill-being has been a direct result to high cortisol levels. High cortisol levels equals shorter lived experience. I can talk about how well we run care homes and why you should have this home in your area, but I think the key aspect of this home, being part of your community, comes in its ability to deliver highly sought after dementia nursing care and support needed by the ICB and detailed in the ICB's market positioning statement. The market positioning statement is clear. Dementia nursing care is required, particularly in this area. More often than not, care homes are built in areas where demand for private pay is targeted. The UK has seen an exponential rise in care homes being built for the private-only market. Our care homes work with local teams to deliver care to the community that is truly needed. This means that we accept payment from local authorities for nursing care, which in turn means there is equity in a community versus very little choice and almost none in the new build sector for people funded by social care and health budgets. It's imperative that the local community is involved in people's care. The cafe will be run by the people who live and work in the home. Thank you. Sorry, I've gone very quick. So essentially I said, this is a planning committee, but moreover, it's a decision maker for enhancing the lives of local people. Following the work on ensuring the building fits with the local aesthetic, thank you, we now have a home that is needed with 100 jobs available to people, supporting the people who live in the area with the NHS and LA who need that support. Care homes are not easy, but okay, sorry, I went very quick. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so before we move on to any questions or debate, I will just remind everybody that this is an outline planning application with landscaping matters reserved, and the recommendation is that we approve this. Okay, so I've firstly had Councillor Salter who would like to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. Really just a point of clarification in respect of the appeal, which we heard at the outset is live at the moment. And that, of course, is an appeal on the previous application. So where do we stand in respect of that? If committee are minded to approve this evening, I would assume that appeal would be removed or recalled, or whatever, or has this version been sent to the inspectorate as a sort of a backup? Where are we with that? Thanks.
So the appeal that's been lodged against the application that was refused in May, I cannot give any guarantee as a planning officer that it will be withdrawn from the process if this application is approved. The decision to withdraw or continue is entirely on the applicant's, it's entirely the applicant's decision as to whether they want to have the appeal run to its conclusion or withdraw it as a result of an outcome today. I've been advised quite strongly that an appeal for costs, an award for costs, will be not pursued if this application was approved, but I cannot advise that shouldn't be a material planning consideration, I hasten to add. But I cannot give a cast iron guarantee that the appeal will be withdrawn if this application is approved. However, it is highly likely to be for obvious reasons.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, my concern is that if that is approved on appeal, then it could negate these preferred changes. I'll use that term. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next we've got sorry. Sorry. What's that? Oh, sorry. Oh, Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chair. It won't surprise anybody to know that I'm still really concerned about this application. Not that I am fully aware that dementia care homes are going to be the thing of the future, but not in this area. It is contrary to the neighbourhood plan and the local plan. Many hours and an awful lot of money have been put into this, and I am going to be repetitious from what I've said before. Councillors and residents have put time into producing the plan, and it now appears that it counts for nothing. Burntwood residents are against this, and they think that we are being shortchanged, as we desperately need the infrastructure first at Sankey's Corner, which we have been promised for many years, and we've requested an injection of cash to do so. And now it looks as though we might be nearing a decision to make improvements, which Burntwood deserves, but we desperately need the infrastructure first in the form of other investments. For a town of our size, we have been sadly neglected and let down, and nobody can deny that. Despite the changes, I think this is still overbearing, imposing, and detrimental to the street scene, as I've said before, and it's a very poor entry into the town centre from the Cannock end, with two care homes either side of each other, and on either side of the road. The facility also is going to put considerable extra pressure on the health provision in Burntwood, which is already causing problems. And I know that there is a unit there for it, but you've got to get the health workers there. And we know that health provision across everywhere is causing problems. but it is particularly in this area, especially as a new health centre, which we've been waiting up at this end of the town for many, many years, is yet again to be delayed. And so it's obvious that a 72-bed care home will require an amount of medical intervention. And the Health and Wellbeing Centre, which is mentioned in the supplementary, it did close a few months ago. And they are saying that they are going to use that, that has got temporary permission. But from reading the information on the supplementary, I think that the temporary permission anyway runs out today, and there is not yet another application for it to be there. And the top part of the units that was, because they were Portakabin things on top of each other, some of them have already been removed. So all those things concern me. And finally, I would like to say that as councillors, we're elected to represent the people and the views of the residents, which is why we need to be listening to them, and they need to listen as well. And I do believe that we have perhaps got valid planning reasons to object to this proposal, and I have got some reasons. If you want me to say them now, I will do, or I can wait till everybody else has spoken.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
No, we'll wait till after. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to wait till after. Okay, because I've got other people that want to speak. So Councillor Cross first. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Despite all the issues we've just heard, I think most of that's been addressed in the officer's report here, which is quite lengthy. If everybody read through that, they'd find most of those objections have been addressed in one way or another. There's no objections that I can find from any of the other consultees on this project. I find it a big improvement to the original application. It's quite a nice looking building. I think it will be an improvement for the area. It would also encourage other developments to come and improve that area, which would be a big benefit for Burntwood. And it would also encourage some finance coming forward to do more with the infrastructure. It's got to start somewhere. You can't start putting infrastructure in before you've got other buildings. It never works. It doesn't work in my own village like that. So a development of this kind, which is much needed there, like we've found in other parts of the district. People from Burntwood are even coming into my own village to the care home there. So we really don't want them because we've got enough people to fill our own home up. So to me, this is something that's needed in Burntwood. It's a nice proposal there. It looks good, it will fit nicely, and it will encourage improvements in the area. It has got a clinical surgery there, the same as our own dementia home. It's got clinical surgery. It's not used a great lot. It's used as and when necessary. It doesn't take up a lot more time or unnecessary time. And it's going to provide 100 jobs in that area, which is much needed. And I would go so far at this stage to say I propose recommendation in accordance with the officer's recommendations and their report.
Okay, we'll take that as the first recommendation, but if we could just let anybody else speak if they want to before we go to a seconder for that. Okay, so I've got Councillor Mears next, please.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to reiterate many of the same points that Councillor Cross has said, particularly the fact that it creates 100 jobs and will improve the street scene massively with the frontage. The development is sympathetic with the buildings around it. In regard to the planning application, I'd just like to ask a question to try and get a better understanding. On paragraph 4, I'm just going to check what page. On page 43, it says this permission will require the submission and approval of a biodiversity gain plan before development is begun. I was of the understanding that biodiversity net plans had to be submitted with the planning permission before they could be discussed and decided upon. I wonder if you could help me understand that a bit further.
Yeah, of course. This application has been submitted following the introduction of the statutory biodiversity net gain legislation, and therefore, when any application that is caught by the legislation is approved, in addition to the conditions that are imposed by the council, the government effectively imposes a planning condition too that requires them to submit a biodiversity gain plan before any works commence. It doesn't need to be upfront. They simply need to provide, there is a tick list or a validation requirement, which I can't recite off the top of my head, which they need to meet when they submit the application. But upon approval, before any works commence, they must submit and have their biodiversity net gain plan approved. So it will be definitely captured, but after permission. No.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Vernon next, please.
I agree with what Councillor Evans said. We are elected to work for, on behalf of, and for the benefit of our constituents. But people with dementia are our constituents, and they are perhaps not able to voice their needs, and they don't have the mental capacity to voice what they need. And at the moment, there is a huge shortage of care beds. And if we adopt the attitude that this is a case of not in my backyard for various reasons, and there's not enough healthcare provisions in my backyard, what areas are there that care homes can be accommodated? So on that basis, and in fact, I've been talking to a group of dementia care people today at a conference. There's going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of shortages of care beds in the next few years. So I think the appearance, as I agree with Councillor Cross, the appearance has improved. I think we should be working on behalf of these people, and we should be more sympathetic to their requirements. So I would favour approval of this concept.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have any more speakers, any more questions or comments before we go back to Councillor Evans? Okay, yeah, Councillor Salter, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, I wondered if we could add the condition that, should it be approved, that the appeal that is current be withdrawn.
That wouldn't be a condition that would pass the tests of the NPPF, unfortunately.
Nice try, yeah. Okay, so if no one's got any other questions or comments, we'll come back to Councillor Evans. Thank you.
Well, I think it probably appears to me to be fairly obvious that I'm not going to get a supporter anyway, but I will move the reasons that I think we can refuse this, because it's totally against the neighbourhood plan and the local plan. That's the first one. It is, secondly, it is imposing on the street scene. It is an overbalance of residential compared to retail and leisure on a strategic site in Burntwood at Sankey's Corner. And finally, concern that extreme pressure will be put on the already overstretched health service provision in Burntwood, especially in view of the new proposed health centre not being available for a number of years.
Okay, so we're looking now. Would anybody like to second Councillor Evans? Okay, Councillor Cross.
I'd just like to make a comment, Chair, that when the dementia home was built in Fradley, it's been very, very successful, and it's built on similar lines to this. There was no question about infrastructure or what effects it was going to have on our only one surgery at Orwas. That never come into consideration in this plan, on this council planning committees. And also Leasley's got planning approval to build another one on Hay End Lane, and the same argument hasn't come forward there, and it was not in the neighbourhood plan or the local plan. So the argument we've got from Councillor Evans, I can't accept that. This is a big improvement for Burntwood, and something for them to be proud of over at Burntwood, and they much need.
Okay, thank you. So have we got anyone to second Councillor Evans? Councillor Evans, this proposal.
Oh, it's
No,
Councillor Evans,
yeah.
sorry, no.
Yeah. Okay, no. You want to second councillor Evans' proposal for?
Sorry.
Yeah. Have you had a long day? Okay, councillor Anketel, go on then.
I think Councillor Vernon thought that Councillor Cross proposed his motion first, and yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we haven't got anyone to second your proposal, councillor Evans, I'm afraid. So we already have a proposal for approval from councillor Cross. So now we need a seconder for that, please. Okay, councillor Powell, just because I saw you first, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we need to go to the vote now. Okay, so all those in favour of approval, if they could please raise their hand. Is there anybody wish to abstain? And anybody against? Okay, we're happy that that's moved then. Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you to everybody that spoke on that. Okay, so we'll move on to the second application in tonight's planning committee, which is 24/00490/FUL Street A Local Centre, Yoxall in Street A. I'll move on to the officer presenting.
Many thanks, Chair. So this is for the proposed erection of a community centre with private outdoor area, parking and associated facilities at the Street Hay Local Centre on Yoxall Way in Street Hay. The site forms part of the sustainable urban extension allocated under policy Lichfield 5, east of Lichfield, Street Hay, of the adopted local plan strategy, which included at policy criterion 2 for the provision of neighbourhood facilities, including a community hub to incorporate a 1/1.5 form entry primary school, community hall, and small-scale convenience retail provision. As such, the proposal fulfills this aspect of the policy, given that the other aspects of the criterion have since been delivered on site. The Street Hay SUE has been secured by the approved outline consent under 12/074/OUT-MEI for up to 750 dwellings, a primary school, a mixed-use local centre, a care home and a community use building. But given the passage of time from when the outline application was approved, it was concluded by officers that a new full planning application for the community centre would be required, hence the proposal before you today. So this slide just shows the location plan with the site being accessed from Yoxall Way, with the access road coming in through the car park to the accessing into the site. And this slide is just an aerial photograph showing as such with the local centre part built out here. However, this is a slightly out of date aerial photograph, as there's been another unit constructed in the local centre which isn't shown on this image. So just some photographs of the site. Photograph 1 just shows the access road coming in through the car park for the local centre, looking away north towards Yoxall Way, with photograph 2 showing the existing footpath which would be extended into the site. Photograph 3 shows the vehicular access point where the The road would be continued into the site, the bollards just obscuring access at this current time. And photograph 4 just shows looking into the site, looking away to the south, with the southern boundary and the existing residential properties away to the south. And again, similar with photographs 5 and 6, with 5 showing the vehicle access point and looking away towards the east, which is where the existing primary school is now located. And photograph 6 is looking away southwest, where the footpath would be showing the footpath connection where it would be extended into the site. This slide just shows the proposed land use for the site, with the car parking area, which would comprise 6 car parking bays, including 2 disabled bays, an electrical vehicle charging bay, following on from the existing local centre car park. An area for cycle parking and a paved external landscape area is also located to the north of the proposed built form. The community centre building is proposed to be orientated in a north-south fashion, with fenestration on its northern and western elevations, and with the primary openings also being on the northern and western elevations. The orientation of the proposed built form provides the option for the use of photovoltaic solar panels, as is referenced in the submitted design and access statement. The community centre building is proposed to comprise a multi-use main hall, along with a smaller multi-purpose community room. Ancillary to these 2 elements is the proposed cafe hub, an entrance area with sanitary facilities and WC changing areas. A grassed private outdoor area is proposed adjacent to the community centre building, which would incorporate an acoustic fence to the southern boundary to limit noise transmission to the adjacent residential properties located away to the south. The private outdoor area would be enclosed by a brick wall with timber look vertical post sections to the northern and western boundary, whilst the southern boundary would comprise a brick wall with the aforementioned acoustic barrier, which would be a timber fence above the brick wall. Soft landscaping is proposed to the east and south of the built form, which would provide an improved buffer with the primary school to the east and the residential properties to the south, as well as offering opportunities for biodiversity improvements. CGIs helpfully show what the proposed community centre would look like, with the community centre proposed to be of a single storey and constructed in a traditional red brick and clay tile, with a pitched timber looking structure to create an inviting frontage at the northern elevation. It's considered that the proposed materiality would be contemporaneous with existing built form in the locality. Through keeping the proposed community centre to a single storey, it would assimilate well with the existing urban grain in the locality, typified by the local centre and primary school to the north and east, whilst maintaining subservience to the existing residential properties to the south. And this slide just shows the elevations with just sort of an example of how it would sit within the context of the existing residential units to the south, as well as the local centre units to the north. There was contained in the supplementary items some amendments to conditions 7, 8 and 9, which would be amended to align with a development not proceeding above slab level approach, as had been found in some other conditions, and which would help in the deliverability of the community centre, as well as the inclusion of the BNG informative as is standard on decision notices now.
Okay, thanks for that presentation. So we don't have any speakers on this today. So before we move on to any debate and questions, I'll just remind you that this has come to planning committee because it is because the council is the applicant, and it is recommended that we approve this. So who would like to speak? Okay, we'll start with Councillor Croft.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions for the planning officer, please. We don't seem to have any objections from any of the consultees, which is nice to see. I was involved with this many years ago when I was chair of the Fradley and Streatham Parish Council. It's taken a long time to get to this stage. I'm pleased to see that it's here with us now, and I've had no involvement with it lately, or for a couple of years or more now. But I do see that there's some residents have got some representations here, and a couple I've picked up, which we found to be a concern over at Fradley in particular, is the areas of use. Have you considered limiting the areas of use, or is that possible? And the other one was another problem that we've had there, but we've dealt with ourselves, was external lighting in the car park, particularly when it's being used with young mums coming out with children in the winter from their activities of an evening. It was necessary to have some lighting, certainly in the car park. I can't find that in this application unless I've missed it somewhere. Is it? It's there. Oh, it's in there. Okay. Okay. And the lighting, is that in there also? Is there any lighting for the car park?
Okay, so just for the record, there is something on condition on hours in there in section 14, was that?
Yes.
Councillor Ashton, yeah. And we're just looking for the rest of it. Sorry, that was hours of construction on point 14. Sorry, Count.
Is it? I can. Is it in there?
It's reg and license.
Sorry. Okay, well,
Sorry, condition 8. Go on, do you want?
So condition 8 sets out that it has to be bat-friendly lighting, but we haven't specified that there needs to be lighting.
Well,
If we think that we would like a scheme of lighting, then that's certainly a condition that we could add.
okay, Chair. And in that case, I would propose approval of this in line with the officers, with the condition that we look at that lighting situation as a condition.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cross. We'll take that as a proposal, and we'll just, before we take a second, we've got a couple of speakers. So Councillor Mears was first. Thank you.
Thank you. On looking at the plan, the colour plan of the outdoor space, it's fully enclosed and there doesn't seem to be any access to that outdoor space unless you go through the buildings. So a lot of public spaces needs to be as versatile and as flexible as possible. And I think it would be worth considering having access into the outside space so that marquees or extra cover could be put up, or any kind of entertainment like outdoor bouncy castles if it's used for a children's party, but also to give emergency services such as the fire service an extra access to the far end of the building if it's needed in an emergency.
Is there any access from the garden? Do we know? Do we know from the outdoor space?
I believe the access is through the community centre building, so that needs to be considered.
Can we get that as a condition? Is that okay? Can we add that as a condition?
Could that,
It depends, doesn't it?
I think if that is something that we could delegate to officers to make sure that gates get put in before we issue the decision, if you're minded to approve and follow the recommendation this evening.
And also that the gates aren't adjacent to a parking space, so they can actually get in and out of the gates when a car's parked there.
Members are minded to approve, then yeah, we could secure that plan before we issue the decision.
Thank you. Councillor Powell, next, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm quite happy to second this, but I have a couple of questions. The main thing that bothers me about this is that there's car parking spacing. You've got the bod there, you've got a fish and chip bar, you've got a supermarket there. If you get something really popular going on a, say, a Saturday night, which is the most likely night things will happen at the hall. The chicaning system on the road there, Yoxall Way, and that makes it very narrow in places. Where are people going to park?
So the proposal includes spaces for car parking. It includes an area for additional car parking as required. There's an area for additional car parking as well, included in the proposals, which is shown just here. So I'm not sure exactly how many spaces that would be, but it provides additional car parking as may be needed.
Sorry, through you, Chair.
Yeah.
Just to confirm that Highways have reviewed the parking situation and they're happy with it. I know the rule. I don't think the roads on that estate have yet been formally adopted by Highways. I don't think we're there yet, are we? But there is talk of double yellow lines and so on because of its close proximity to the train station. Yeah, so that, if anything, that would prevent people, that would make people more likely to walk to this. But it is a community facility. But again, I'd reiterate that Highways haven't raised objections in terms of our parking standards. So.
Sorry, can I just say, in that case, yeah, you've answered what I wanted to hear, that there will be some sort of, because otherwise the residents on a busy night, they won't be able to get into their own homes. So I'll second it. Thank you.
Okay, before we go to the vote, we've got another speaker, Councillor Rushton, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to put on, but I think that this would be a really good thing in the area. I know that, I mean, the parish council itself is still using Fradley Way and Neverstone areas. It would be good to have a community hub. I just want to really stress the importance on condition 10 as well, with the travel plan and the construction plan, making sure that obviously it is right by a school. It's a busy road. It's very congested at the moment because of HS2 works. So I hope there's heavy thinking about how that construction plan will work, especially for the safety of the children, which is already being raised because of how busy that area is at the moment. But yeah, on the whole, I support this.
Okay, thank you. So no one else got any questions? No? Okay, so we've got a proposer and a seconder for this. Okay, so we'll go to the vote. Can I get a show of hands of everybody that is in favour of this, please? Well, we have started the vote. Yeah.
And also the lighting condition.
Okay, so we'll start that again. Everybody minded to approve, could you raise your hand, please? Okay, that's a full house.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, so before we move there, that's all the planning applications for tonight. So before we move on to the next bit, I just need to read this out. For the exclusion of public and press, it's resolved that as publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the conditional nature of the business to be transacted, the public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business, which would involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act of 1972 as amended. Thank you.